Through the first two games of the regular season for Tennessee football, I think it's become abundantly clear how desperately the Volunteers needed a strong and vocal leader, specifically in that quarterback position. It goes back to a conversation we had here over the summer where I mentioned that Josh Heupel and company had already won with getting Joey Aguilar out of the transfer portal because of the type of leader that he is. They continued to win even more when that transfer quarterback became the starting quarterback for Tennessee, and that return on investment continues to increase with how he's looked through the first two games of the regular season, with a handful of explosive plays in each matchup and his ability to spread the wealth. The first game getting it to 8 different balls, the second game getting it to at least 6 different balls, and that was in just a first one half of football being played. And he's continued to win specifically in, I guess you could call them the soft skills, what he's been able to do away from the practice field, what he's been able to do away from just, game time scenarios. It's everything that I mentioned in the post-game recap, where he was in the huddle with the team on the very last drive of the game, where he had not played a single snap of football against ETSU since the first half, yet he was very actively in that huddle with the offense and what would eventually be one of the last drives of the game. That sentiment and what I noticed in those details is really echoed today. We heard from the wide receivers coach and Kelsey Pope, where he's like, I like to go long in my meetings, and sometimes those meetings get cut short because his receivers like Braylon Staley, Mike Matthews, and Chris Brazel are like, Coach, we've got dinner with Joey. Like, we got to wrap this thing up. And it just goes into why there's been such an immediate connection on the field between Joey and the intended receivers. I mean, Mike Matthews caught all 6 of his intended targets on Saturday. Chris Brazel continued to look really good, had a career day, his first 100-plus yard receiving game as a Tennessee Volunteer. I think just his 3rd of his career overall. Of course, he started at Tulane. So you see that in the wide receiver position. We also see that in the offensive lineman room. Sam Pendleton telling me earlier today that Joey's even in the meeting with them. We've heard Joey Halzle, the OC, talk about how Joey Aguilar just lives in the film room. I'm thinking that's just in the quarterback film room and where he can get better. No, he's in every single position group's film room, trying to learn their perspective, sharing his thoughts, trying to build connections that way. And I think that's something that this team desperately needed. Sarah Thomas told me earlier this week when I asked them, we've heard so much about Joey Aguilar's composure, and it's something that he said from the very get-go, that he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. Well, how does that translate to when you're playing at this level in college football? Seems like he's been able to hold true to his ability to not stay too high, not stay too low. And it's that type of composure that gives Star Thomas a ton of confidence in his quarterback that he can go and handle this primetime matchup with the Georgia Bulldogs. I know they try to say, you handle every game the same way, but Georgia is a lot different than playing, another SEC school like typically a Vanderbilt or a Missouri. So for them to have this level of confidence in Joey that he's going to have the same composure, that he has spent a ton of time being able to get connected with every single position group, I think that's why you see how much they want to play hard for him, why they have this undeniable connection. And those team dinners that he had at the very beginning when he got here is something that he's still continuing. And I think there's a huge importance to have a leader like that, especially in the quarterback position, for the overall success of the team. And it seems that that's what Joey Aguilar specifically has been able to do. And I think that's why you see the team really wanting to play hard for him, and it's that type of connection, that type of composure that they'll need against the Georgia Bulldogs. It will not be an easy matchup, despite how Georgia has looked through the first 2 games, but I think that's a positive sign for Tennessee to have somebody that has good leadership qualities, has composure, is a confident player, and is doing his part to build connections with all of his offensive players. And I know he even does that on the defensive side of the ball too. So just a really positive note from today's media availability as Tennessee gets ready for week 3 against the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll have so much more coming up on this matchup. We'll dive deep into the matchups that we'll see here. And of course, live ball with VFL Todd Kelly Jr. is 8:30 on Friday mornings. If you don't catch us live, you can of course go back to the homepage and catch us after the fact. I'll talk to you guys later this week.